Righto, before we kick today's yarn up the freckle, just want to say a big thanks to all the legends that keep the lights on here at Alpha Blokes HQ. Better beer. Now look, we're heading into the fight camp. Things are happening. We're all moving. Heaps of fitness going on, but I still want to have a beer, so I'm going to have a few middies. If you want to get a few kegs off the tum, try the Better Beer middies out.
I'd like to thank CTC for keeping our domes out of the sun and looking good in the studio.
Bloody oath. SP Tools for making sure no matter what mischief we run into, we got the tool to get us out of trouble.
TikTok Nutrition for keeping us fueled for this upcoming fight and just daily battles, I guess.
And the true blue Aussie bookie, Bluebet. Righto, as you all heard, we've had a bit going on lately. We're inside the final month, ready for the biffin, and the ring has been assembled at Cam's house. SP Tools played a major role in getting the job done. The drill bits literally got stuck into their work. They stood up for the task. We give them a hiding, and we highly recommend them. What else has been getting a workout, brother?
Lately, mate, that battery 3/8 ratchet drive has been getting into its work. Typical me, buying a Chinese excavator wasn't the best thing I could have done. So a lot of bolts getting replaced. And this week's actually, it's going to probably get a bigger workout as long as with all the other tools that we'll supply by them. It's bloody good stuff.
Yeah, sweet. So there you go. The 3/8 battery ratchet and the drill bits, just to name a couple that get into their work. If you want to check them out or any other tools, head to sptools.com and use the code ALPHA at checkout for 10% off their entire range, or head in store, tell them that the Alpha Blokes sent ya. Top quality tools that we trust. Call them what you want, knee knockers, golden nuggets, thigh slappers, etc. But our friends at Manscaped refer to them as the boys. Not every man has children, but every man is responsible for their two boys below the waist. When your little guys have more hair than they need, trust Manscaped for all your grooming dreams. Boys need love too, so join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com and use the code ALPHABLOKES for 20% off plus free shipping. You heard it here first, the boys are back in town.
Every man knows how scary it can get when you're going for a close shave below the waist. That's why I trust Manscaped for all my sensitive areas.
Do you know what my favourite thing about it is, Cam?
What's that, mate?
Taking it into the shower and just ploughing it down the drain.
Yep.
I don't know if that's what you're supposed to do, but I love doing it. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code ALPHABLOKES at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code ALPHABLOKES at manscaped.com. For the best your boys have ever looked, trust Manscaped. G'day, legends. Got a bit of a bonus episode here for you today. While we were down in Brisbane a few weeks ago, we got a fella on the show by the name of Stolk. Now, Willy's an ex-professional skier, a cannabis enthusiast and activist, an entrepreneur. He's done some pretty wild and wacky things in his life. He's partied at the Playboy mansion and met Hugh Hefner. He's directed pornos. A totally different world to what we're used to. So it was interesting to hear his point of view on a few things. We pretty much sat there and just copped an earful for an hour and a half about his life and what he's got going on. And yeah, it was an interesting chat. So maybe if the cannabis chat and the porno chat, stuff like that, isn't your thing, probably not the episode for you. But if you're all about that, then get it into you.
I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the he wants.
About to go stupid again. She out the roof of the bench. I'm about to do it again. I'ma fuck two of her friends. Just made a flip out the rock. Fuck the Frank Mueller. I jump out the jeweler again. I fuck my money up on the re-up, but I got it right back and I blew it again. Hey, back from the bricks. Back selling nicks like you.
Welcome back to another episode of the Alpha Blokes podcast.
The boys are on tour.
We are.
Where are we, bro?
Mate, we're in the Gypsy Tales studio today, and Willy Stolk.
The big fella.
Pleasure
to meet you guys. What's going on?
Mate, fucking...
How are you? You made the big trek down from Gladstone?
Yeah, the old 7 hours south of here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
made the big trek up.
That's right. Down.
All over the place. Been a big night last night.
That's
but,
right.
Yeah, mate, we've been pretty keen to get you on for a while, eh? Been sort of chatting and watching you on the socials and stuff like that. We've actually heard the podcast we both listened to that you did in this studio with Jace.
Yeah, that was the second one we did. The first one, the audio fucked up.
Yeah.
I think we smoked a couple of hooters that day and, he probably pressed the wrong button. I think that was before we had the homeboy over here. D-Rock. Vaynerchuk and what's Rogan's offsider?
Jamie.
Jamie.
Yeah.
Young Jamie, right?
Little Jamie in today.
Yeah. Little Jamie.
Little Jamie and young Jamie.
Yeah, that's it.
Fair enough.
Brother, what have you been up to?
Just been cruising. I'm on bail at the moment for this year's kind of cannabis publicity stunt. We've been doing that for the last probably about six years or something like that. It's called Who Are We Hurting? It's like a kind of a big campaign to try and get cannabis legalized in Australia. So we projected a whole bunch of weed leaves and the Who Are We Hiding sign and a big cannabis leaf on the side of the Sydney Opera House. I proceeded to get arrested with my other friend, got locked up for 6 hours, and then got out on bail. I had to report into the cop station 3 times a week for about 2 months until my lawyer could take it to the magistrate and apply for the bail to be, the restrictions to be, kind of lifted and yada yada bullshit. Yeah. And then now, I'm in the process of kind of working on a couple more brands and, a couple of TV shows and just been cruising, going to the gym and surfing. And it's been a long 2.5 years being stuck in Australia. As before, obviously, my last career, I was constantly traveling. And obviously, normally, because we got businesses in California and stuff like that, and now looking into businesses in Europe, I'm looking to travel again. But until I get off bail, I'm kind of potentially stuck here. I may be able to get around it. I'm working on that. Because I need like a reason to leave. It's like a business reason or something like that.
So where you base yourself now?
I'm based between here and Sydney, on the Gold Coast and in Sydney. My family recently sold their apartment in Sydney that I was always kind of staying at back and forth. But normally it's like between here, Sydney, and probably California. Mammoth Lakes. That's where we own our. That's where we own our cannabis dispensary that I opened with my my colleague Corey Zyler, who we used to compete on the Freeride World Tour together. We've had that for about, I think, just on 2.5 years now. It's right at the bottom of Yosemite National Park in a place called Lee Vining.
Oh, nice.
So just cruising and surfing and partying a little bit, getting kicked out of parties, being a drunken mess sometimes, and just trying to get a bit more on the straight and narrow.
So you went to that sex bar the other week, did you?
Yeah, that was an interesting day. I don't remember much of that, so that was an adventure. My alter ego is called Felicia, so bye Felicia. But it doesn't come out; it comes out about once a year. So. So what goes on tour stays on tour.
We've been keen to get you on for a while now because, our audience and the guests that we've had on are a lot of blokes, similar to us. And, you come from a world that is completely, different to us, what you've done in your life and stuff like that. And also keen to talk to you about, the cannabis industry and where Australia is with that, because we all just assume, it should be legal soon. It's Canada is, and, where sort of is it at, bro? And
well, at the moment, we're kind of in a stagnated position. There is movement towards recreational legalization. At the moment, we have medicinal legalization. Which means that you could go in and get your script for, $500 or $600, potentially cheaper. There's medical doctors, it's quite prevalent. And then they give you a script for whatever you want, for what you need, for what your ailment is. But they give you a prescription for your ailment, and then they kind of give you a specific weed that you can get. So you don't really go into a dispensary and have choice like you would in California or Colorado or Canada or whatever, wherever it is that you are. So, there's about 150,000 patients, I think, last time I looked. That my number might have increased. I heard recently that for the first time since they've allowed medical cannabis that the applications have gone down 20% in the last month for the first time since it started. I think that the biggest problem that we have is that not many people are aware that you can actually do it. And I think a lot of people, from what I hear, feedback, think that you have to be terminally ill or something like that to be able to receive it.
So you don't no, it's a process anyone can go through
within reason. Obviously that you can. I have glaucoma. Or that's probably not a good one. I have anxiety, or I've got a bum knee, or or whatever it is, and then you can legally go and purchase the cannabis, and
Righto.
you can legally have it on your persons. But the other problem is the drug driving laws.
Yeah, that's
I was going to ask about that because, like, Canada, that was the period when we were over there for that 7 months where it was pretty much legalised, but they hadn't worked that out yet. And I wanted to ask you if you knew, like, I think it was 0.08 over there, which was good. You could have a 6-pack and drive home, but what is, how do they
There is no
determine
way of measuring it.
There is no way.
So basically the charge is it doesn't stand up in court. So if you take it to court, there is a higher probability that you can potentially get off.
Yep.
because you could potentially smoke it last night, not be affected at all.
From up to 2 years. And a few years ago at Mardi Gras, there were a bunch of people that were doing tests to try and test the swab test as like kind of as an experiment. And then several people that had never smoked weed before came up positive. And then I smoked a bong 10 minutes before and did the test, and it came up negative. So it doesn't really work. One of my colleagues, who I'm actually not allowed to talk to at the moment, my friend Craze, as part of our bail conditions, we're not allowed to communicate with each other, which is pretty crazy because that's to do with like the bikey kind of the bikey laws and them coming together and blah blah blah. Yep. So for them to put that kind of charge on me for projecting an image on an iconic building, it's a bit harsh. But anyways, Craze, he got done out the front of his house. He was just moving his car, and he had a security company, and he went to court. He pled guilty because his lawyer told him that if he pled guilty, then he'd be able to apply for a work license. Okay, so he pled guilty, applied for a work license. Well, he had a security company that employed 15 people. In order to have a security license, you can have no drug charges or no DUIs. And the lawyer wasn't aware of that. He didn't, he obviously wasn't the best lawyer in the world, so he didn't really take that into account. And so he ended up losing his security license, so then he had to shut down his company, and now 15 people are unemployed.
Wow.
So now he's taking it to court, and, I don't know what the conclusion will be, but that's probably one of the biggest hindrances is that.
Yeah.
We are working on a program called Evidence-Free RBT, with the Greens and a few other, the Legalized Cannabis Party and a few different people. There's a few different sects that are working towards legalization. The Greens have a big bill in place that apparently they're going to, put into play in October or November. That is what I heard.
Yeah.
Do I think that'll go through? I highly doubt it. Obviously I'd like to be, to think positively. But, in the reality, I think there's too many conservative people in Australia to let that happen.
Yeah.
But obviously as this thing has happened to my friend, it's a big deal. It's really messed up his life, and it's cost 15 people their job.
Yeah, that's huge.
And, so, the program, the evidence-free RBT. So I think the realistic journey to full cannabis recreational legalization in Australia is probably making more people aware that the medicinal program is available. Yeah. And then getting rid of these trumped up drug charges that just are non-existent and don't work. Yeah. Because the tests don't work. So what the legislation says is that you're impaired beyond a doubt that you can't drive your vehicle.
Yeah.
But if there's no measurement on it.
What do you think the solution for that is? Is there one? Like, is there a solution to measure a certain parts per million in...
I drive fucking high all the time.
Yeah. But I mean,
I don't give a fuck.
But I mean,
I drive better high. Like, I wouldn't say I drive better high, but I drive just pretty reasonable. I definitely drive slower.
Yeah. But
I'm probably
much
more cautious.
Like, if it's going to be a thing where everyone accepts it and moves forward, like, there has to be a way, doesn't there, to be like...
Well, not necessarily, because in America and Canada, they don't test for it.
So they just don't test?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Yeah,
I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Australia's one of the only countries in the world that does it, that does the RBT test.
Yeah,
the Evidence-Free RBT is the program we're trying to work on.
Yeah.
So our next stunt will probably involve something around that.
With the stunt thing too, like as in, like obviously you're doing that to make noise, right, and make people aware. Sorry, make people aware of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Surely you expected a big backlash from projecting that onto the fucking operator.
Of course. It is what it is, and it's good for business. It is good for business. You guys are aware of it. We got on the news, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The Daily Telegraph, this, that, blah. And that was the point. But when they arrested us, they actually confiscated all the footage. And so this is the first time we've been arrested. Last year we took ScoMo, we took ScoMo 3 fake pounds of weed of cannabis at Ep.65 house.
Yeah.
The year before that, we built a. So the year before that, no, the year before that, we put out. Oh, was that 2019? I think it was 2000. Yeah, it was 2019. We built a 27 foot high cannabis Christmas tree, and we put it in where the Christmas tree goes in Martin Place in Sydney.
Oh,
on 420. Obviously, all this has happened on 420. And then the year before that, we put 100 fake cannabis plants all through Sydney. And then originally, the first one we did, or the first proper one we did one before. The first one we actually flew. We made a big sign that said "Happy Birthday Weed," and we flew it up into with giant helium balloons.
Yeah,
and we ended up having CASA call us, and because we blocked one of the flight paths for the airport.
Oh no!
The cops came and and I'm there in a bong outfit, in a super bong outfit, and the cops came and confiscated, blah blah blah.
Fucking hell!
But we didn't get arrested for that, and then the first big one we did was we created a fake cannabis grow room in the middle of King's Cross, obviously I'll give you guys all the footage that you can link to or put it in whatever. And so when we did that, we had the grow room and it said, "Who are we hurting?" It was right down on William Street, just about 100 meters down from where the Coke sign is. And it was like a kind of like an art thing. And anyway, so when we first did it, we didn't know what was going to happen. This is the first time we've ever kind of done any kind of big level, high level stunt like this. And so I was working on a TV show at the moment, and we went back to my house because we set it up at about midnight, 1 o'clock, and I was with my chick at the time. I dropped her off, went back to my house with Craze. And then it's about 5 and 6 in the morning. He's hitting me. And he's I'm I need to sleep for an hour. So anyways, we ended up getting, he wakes up and he's got 10 missed phone calls. And it's only 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning at this time, probably about 7 a.m. And it's the owner of the shop that we rented. And he said, "You got to come now. You got to come now. You got to come now." So we go there and we go on the other side of William Street, and we're looking across the highway, and there's probably about 8 or 9 cops there, and 5 news crews, Channel 7, Channel 9, Channel 10, ABC, blah blah blah. So we Rochambeau who's going to go have to deal with this and open the thing. Anyways, I won, so I didn't have to do it. But he goes over, and we didn't know whether we were going to get arrested or better that he gets, because then I have the footage. Because when we both got arrested, all the other people in the crew, they're on the out. They kind of know what's going on, but they're not seasoned veterans where there's a system we have, we plug everything in, we do the upload into the cloud, then everything gets, put into a drive, and then the editor starts editing it to put out the press releases at before the beginning of the news day at 6 in the morning. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Or and then we send it out to all the press, we do the big press release and blah, blah, blah. And normally what happens is once one article goes, then everybody, the brag, Life Without Andy, Boss Hunting, the Daily Telegraph, all that, they start, and then Channel 7 and Channel 9 and et cetera, et cetera. So, we've led a pretty kind of, big attack on, on the powers that be to try and legalize it. This one potentially probably could have been the most high profile one, but when we got arrested, they confiscated a bunch of our footage. And then my mate didn't sign the bail papers, and I got let out. And so I ran back from the Chinatown cop shop and ran back to, my hotel room, because we got kicked out of the Hyatt. We were staying at the Hyatt right next to, where the Opera House is. Yep. And so we had 3 different, I don't know if I'm allowed to, I could get done for contempt of court for saying this, but whatever, who gives a fuck. So that we've had 3 different laser projectors, and there's these things called, what the fuck are they called? But there's these little laser boxes, and they're fucking amazing. They're amazing. And so we had one set up in the room, one down, I was down near the, International Cruise Terminal, and then we had another one projecting on the Harbour Bridge. Now, my friend had been there about a month before to kind of test the lasers to see because we measured it out, and it was ironically about 420 meters between the laser and the point. And so he got done by the caretaker, and they, blah, 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 and he got a warning. So under the Crown law, the Opera House is the only building in Australia that's registered as a commercial trademark.
Yeah, right.
So I have another friend as an example. He has a jet flyboarding, you know, with the water coming out the back. So he has a flyboarding company. He does, shout out to Richie. He does shows all over Australia, and he had a photo on his website as an advertisement, and he was doing a paid show out the front of the Sydney Luna Park.
Yep.
And then in the background is the Sydney Harbour Bridge and then the Opera House. Well, he got sent a cease and desist letter from the Australian government because the Opera House is pictured in the back of the photo, and he was using it for commercial use. Oh. So I got charged under a similar law in that act, if that makes sense. So the charge is distributing, i.e. just like distributing like flyers or whatever, or advertising on the premises of the Sydney Opera House.
With something like that, bro, surely they're just going to try and drill you with any sort of thing they can get, won't they?
Well, my brother's a lawyer, and obviously I'm represented by Mark Davies, who just got all the climate activists off. He got the Friendly Geordies off. He's he used to be a famous journalist, and his partner is Nick Xenophon, who was a senator from Adelaide, South Australia. So they've kind of formed this coalition, Sydney criminal lawyers, and they represent a lot of mischief-making people like myself and celebrity people and blah, blah, blah. And they're quite good at, sticking it to the man. So I'll probably get off, but what I'm facing is about a $1,250 fine. But what really can affect me is it comes with a criminal charge.
Yeah,
and that's the travel part.
Yeah, that's the travel part. And I'm not worried about traveling. I need to be able to go back to America. I already own 3 businesses there. Yeah. We're launching our next business in about 3 weeks, which is called Byron Bay CBD. Yep. And so I need to go back to the States. I've got an agent there. You know, I know I've got family there I haven't seen in 3 years. Obviously, COVID, blah, blah, blah. So that's really critical to my kind of future. I have a Dutch passport, so I can always go to Europe and live in Europe. I'm not really worried about Japan, whatever. Yeah. America's like one of the only countries other than Canada. And I already lived in Canada for 6 years, so I'm not really, that fussed about Canada. Obviously, I love Canada, but America's very critical to... That's the center of my world. Yeah. You know what I mean? All the TV stuff, all the ski stuff, all the cannabis stuff, it all kind of relates all around California. And obviously I've grown up there a lot of my life. So
steering to that, bro, can you take us into some other ventures you got going on in America? Like you were just saying, then you rattled a few off.
Yeah,
like what other stuff you got going?
We opened the weed dispensary. I kind of invested in a company that I kind of helped found called Inspired Paws. It's a CBD company for pets, with a friend of mine who's a famous ski filmmaker named Eric Iberg.
That's huge now, isn't it? Like,
it's in the process.
Getting your cats off anxiety or whatever.
Yeah, it's really good for
them. Them up.
It's a process starting all these brands, because we've had limited capital. So we're about to do a big money raise for a bunch of money, and then that'll take it to the next level. Like at the moment, it's been kind of like my funds or family funds or just investments of 50 or 100 here. And we've probably spent a fair amount of money to get everything kind of set up, and then we had a vape company called Fully Lit. Then they made
that
we had 3 different
Is this
flavors.
The cannabis one or
no, it was just nicotine. Yeah, that would have been massive. But then they made it illegal here. Yeah, and I had a friend of a friend get done, and he had to pay like a $30,000 fine and full on like.
Because I know you can get a medicinal card or something, and then put it into the bigger vapes.
Yeah,
I think the boys were getting that sort of stuff.
It's just Australia's a fucking nanny state.
Yeah.
Like, fuck off. I want to do what I want. Within reason, I understand drink driving. I understand,
blokes
certain basically normal stuff. But, man, if what I do in my own house, if it doesn't affect anyone, who gives a fuck?
Yeah. It's
where did this love for weed come from, mate? From the beginning, the skiing thing?
Yeah. When I was skiing, I was a mogul skier back in the day, and I'd smoke weed a little bit, when I was a kid, and I had friends of my dad's. It was always kind of like a naughty thing. I remember one of my dad's mates came over when I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, and my dad told me that he just got out of jail, and I'm like, what did he get out of jail for? And he's like, he grew marijuana. And I was like, what's marijuana?
Yeah.
And, my dad's an OG you know, he knows a lot of people. He's friends with Michael Hutchins, and my uncle's the drummer for AC/DC on my mum's side, and blah, you know, like, so they're wild hippies. My dad lived in the 70s and went skiing. Yeah, you know, my parents are pretty free-thinking people, but it was always kind of like a little bit, I wouldn't say, it was kind of frowned upon. It was kind of like the naughty lettuce, you know what I mean? I didn't really see it around me, and then I think I smoked weed a couple of times in like grade 7, and then I moved to, I went to Whistler when I was 14 or 15 after I'd been living in France for a year, and I went to summer camp there, and a kid named Stephen Thomas, who ended up becoming one of the bigger pro skiers in the world, he used to have little ratty little dreadlocks, and I still remember being at the fucking Vancouver airport, like fresh-eyed, and it's like I'm 15 and I'm like going to this summer camp for the first time that I've known about, and I'm like, this is fucking sick. And he comes up to me with his little ratty dreadlocks. He's like, yeah, want to see my rollerblade footage? And I ended up becoming homies with him, and we were in the same ski group because we were like at a similar level. Like they put you in the groups, and then like the emerging like kids that were like on their way to doing stuff that are doing, you know, back then, you know, Cork 7 was a really big trick. And so he's in my group. And I'm like, oh, wow, this guy. And he had the best style. He's a fucking such a G. Such a fucking G. Yeah. And so if anyone out there gets to go check out Stephen Thomas, Level 1, long story short segment. One of the best segments ever. Ski segments. Anyway, so I was with him, and we went to the High North Hotel. There's another summer camp because I was at SMS. It was a bit more clean cut, and I was still skiing moguls then. Because my dad was like, because I really wanted to go to the Olympics when I was a little kid. Yeah. And this is kind of what ruined that kind of whole dream. This one moment. And we went into it was on a down day. It was pissing down with rain, and we went to the High North Hotel. We bought an 8th off the block in Whistler, like 15, like little fucking hobbit kids. And they made an apple bong, and we smoked we sat there for about 3 hours, and we smoked the whole 8th through the apple bong. And then Stefan ate the apple, and I've never seen someone, anyone who's so high. He looked at his little dreadlocks and his little ratty eyes. It was very, very funny. And after that, kind of, it was a downhill slope. Yeah. After that, you know, I kind of became, you know, a pothead. And I think there was a couple of cats that were very influential, in the ski world, Mikhail Deschneaux, and Tanner Hall. And I remember Royalty was my favorite ski movie that ever came out, and it was made by the gentleman who I started this, or who co-owns the Inspired Paws company. It was called Royalty, and Mikhail Deschneaux had a segment in it, and it was like to like Rastafarian music, and he's smoking mad hooters in his between the like the phases and just doing like drawbacks and like a big blunt, and I was like, and he had little dreadlocks, and I was like, wow. And after that, I was like, that's what I identified with after that.
Because you're like right into your filmmaking and shit, aren't you?
Yeah, producing is what I do. I do a little bit of directing. I'm kind of getting into that, but I'd rather pay someone that's better at it and then just kind of like have more so creative director. Yeah. So I own a creative agency called People Like Us. We do a lot of stuff for like companies like Fireball, a little bit of stuff with Red Bull and cannabis companies. It just depends on the project. At the moment, we're doing the Maxim magazine 11th anniversary party next month.
The men's magazine.
Yeah. So I work for them. I work with them.
Yep. How does that sort of thing survive these days with Instagram? Like,
just probably on a marquee name, and then having events like this one, which you guys should come to. Yep. I don't know if you'll have wives, but I don't know if you have wives by the end of it.
But Dad, I'll be coming.
No, nothing wrong with
we'll find a blind one and then find out what a guide dog eats and hook him up.
No, man, it's pretty like hearing your story a couple of times, like on different things before about like where you've been and what you've done, like even getting into like directing pornos and shit. Like how the fuck do you get into that?
Well, originally I used to run a men's magazine called Apollo with one of my friends, and I actually met him he was a doctor, and obviously I can't mention his name. Yeah. But I met him on the Style Life forum, and Style Life was the forum that, I don't know if you guys ever got into forums, but forums back in the day.
Only when something went wrong with a car or jet ski.
With the shit. And the one that I grew up on the most was newschoolers.com, which is like a ski one. I've been on that for 15. I still check that almost every day. Yep. It's in skateboarding, it's Slap Magazine. Slap
Yeah,
forums.
yeah.
You've probably heard of that before.
Yep.
And then back in the day, there was also snowboard.com. Great place to pick up chicks. It was like snowboard profiles remember MySpace?
Yep.
Fuck, man, I got so many roots off that fucking platform. It was amazing. You used to be able to search. You used to be able to search within 30 kilometers of where you were going. So I'd go somewhere on a ski trip for like a sponsor or a film trip, and I just have the same. I still use the same method now. It's just a fucking cut and paste, and just message 30 fucking chicks. 10 will write back. You'll fuck 3 of them. Every single city around the world. Yeah. Now with Instagram, you kind of got to you got to do a bit more work and it's kind of.
You're not a Tinder operator?
No, I don't like Tinder. No, it's not really my. Seeking.com is a new one that I'm endeavoring to. I haven't gone there yet, but like once I make a bunch more money, fuck, I'll just pay him to leave, like Charlie Sheen said. What was the question again?
Directing porn.
Directing porn. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I apologize. There's so much random bullshit that I've done. So I met this dude on the Style Life forum, which was the forum for the game. You remember the book, The Game, that Neil Strauss wrote about the mystery method and stuff like that? It's like a pickup book, and it started in about 2008, 2009, 2010. It started this big pickup movement, and I went on there and I found this. I met these. A wingman to go hang out and go pick up girls with and learn sarging, as they called it. You know what I mean?
What do they call it? Sarging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. It's named after some PUA guy's fucking cat or some shit like that. And I was like, I love women, right? Obviously, it's very prominent, the Playboy lifestyle bullshit.
Yeah.
And obviously, I wanted to hone the craft, you know?
Yeah.
And I was traveling around the world. And so I met this guy and we hit it off, and we ended up going to the Playboy mansion together. And, we went there, and it was Venetian masquerade ball, and we took masks that were in the shape of Hugh Hefner, and I had a flashing badge that said "A dingo stole my baby," and all this shit happened. I hooked up with Miss October. I got blacked out drunk, woke up in a hedge in the back behind the game. Like, all sorts of crazy shit happened.
Was Hugh still alive then?
Yeah, I met him. Yeah, I went twice. I met him twice, 2 different times.
True.
He's a fucking G. So my ex-girlfriend used to be I had a porn star girlfriend that I met in Canada, and she ended up she was the 2011 Penthouse Pet of the Year for Australia.
Yeah.
She's living with my family. Anyway, that's another, we'll go there after. So this is like the timeline. So we ended up going to the Playboy mansion. Then Ralph magazine wrote an article about us, a 4-page article that my mate wrote. And then after that, we ended up starting this men's magazine called Apollo. And it was like a high-end men's mag, kind of like GQ. Through that, I started interacting with another filmmaker friend of mine, and I became friends with Kiki Vitas. And Kiki Vitas was the first, well, not, I wouldn't say the first, but at the time, she was one of the biggest, probably top 5 biggest porn stars in the world. She won the AVN Rookie of the Year. She's a boss, and she had a company that was doing porn as a porn agent. So she was repping people that you could pay to shoot porn. So I started this company. It was going to be called Jasmine Honeys. And we were going to shoot high-end porn for couples, full sensual, and we ended up, I only directed probably about 3 or 4 different scenes, and then it just ended up costing too much money, and then a lot of the girls weren't, like, now they're OnlyFans, there's a lot more chicks that are doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Bro, what was that like? Do you have to be like, a bit harder, mate, get into it? Or, move your leg, bro?
Fuck, you want the X-rated version?
Yeah. Oh, dude, I just wouldn't know what it's like. Like, as in, fucking, as if we're ever gonna...
Well, I shot a scene between her and Mishka Venter, and one of them came to the set, and she was she'd put on a bit of, she kind of catfished us a little bit. She'd put on a bit of love, and that wasn't Kiki, so I'm not going to mention the other girl's name because that'd just be mean.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're in the scene. We ended up hiring this big mansion in like Broadbeach Waters or something. Now, technically in Australia, if you're not a couple, it's illegal to shoot porn unless it's shot in Canberra. So they were shooting the day before, because we got it for 3 days, and they were shooting out near the pool, and someone called the cops and they got kicked out of the Airbnb. So we ended up going to this guy named Carter's house, and Carter was a juggalo. Do you know what juggalo is? You know, like Insane Clown Posse. He was like an Aussie juggalo rapper. Interesting. Anyway, so that's another. So we go to his house.
Holy.
We ended up shooting we shoot the porno, and I rock up I've never been on a porn star. I've dated porn stars. I've had a wild life, but this is kind of like the beginnings of kind of more what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And there's certain subjects I can't necessarily talk about because of anonymity.
Yep.
So I walk into the new location, and they were shooting photos for fridge magnets. Remember when strippers used to do their fridge magnets and stuff? So they were shooting photos for that on a green screen or like black backdrop. And Kiki comes out, and she didn't have any pants on. She just had a little fucking landing strip, she was a redhead. She looks like Isla Fisher. And she comes out and she's like, Will, and she gives me a big cuddle, and I'm like, oh my, what the fuck? And I look down and I was like, just to double check I'm not like seeing things in my brain. And then anyways, we ended up going upstairs, and we start the scene, and I'm directing, and I'm reasonably kind of intuitive with this kind of stuff. Obviously I haven't been on porn sets before, but I've grown up around cameras. I've been shooting with some of the best filmers in the world for skiing and yada 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 bullshit. You see it, and it's not fucking rocket science, right? And I'm sure to get really good at it it's a process, but it's not out of my wheelhouse to be able to learn how to do that. So Kiki pulls out this fucking crystal glass double-sided dildo that was like thick, like a really nice bong, and it was like fucking like probably about 12 inches, and it was curved. Yeah. And so she got up on top of the bed stand, and then the other chick was on the floor, and they were double scissoring on the end of the dildo.
Cat dogging.
Fucking going hard.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not fazed by much, man. And I was like, fuck. And I got the biggest chubby fucking hard on. I had to go into the fucking... I went, I'll be back in a second. I went into the bathroom and did the whole pull the dick up.
Duct tape it
to the fucking thing. Yeah. And I've got I'm pretty synonymous for my very large feet, so it's very visible. That's what, hence Willy Biggs. I didn't give myself that name, obviously.
Yeah, so it's the sword.
I'm not going to, you can ask get some porn star chick
like
that I fucked on here.
Holding an apple.
Something like that. Yeah, baby's arm holding it. So, and then I come back out, and then they finished it, and I was like, fuck, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I probably will get back into that, and I might have dabbled that I'm not allowed to talk about a little bit.
Yeah,
but I'll keep that one anonymous. I
didn't realise you could do it in Canberra when you're not a couple. I thought it was completely illegal in Australia.
Can you just say you're a couple for the day?
No, you don't. Well.
Or do you have to be like a registered couple?
Dude, my homeboy, the Mr. Iconic, that's another dude you guys should... He's a big porn star. He's like one Australian porn star of the year 2 years. Yeah, he shot with 100 different chicks. So all these chicks are realising he was... And my other friend, Hayley, she was on MAFS. She's a porn star now. When she got off MAFS, she made like... I heard the rumour. She didn't tell me factually. But I heard she was making about 40 grand a week.
Yeah, look at these OnlyFans girls, and they're doing content with blokes, so that's sort of the same sort of thing.
I'm so down with that shit. Like, fuck. I've shot like 6 scenes. Don't tell anyone, even though I'm going to go on and tell on the biggest podcast in Australia and say it. I haven't put it out yet. Yeah. Fuck, it's amazing. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Just POV porn. It's fucking so sick. And you get to fuck a really... Like, I remember I shot one scene with a girl, and I'm like... And I probably won't put this out, so it doesn't actually matter. But I shot one scene. I go over to her house, and she's a pretty hot chick, and I'd already hooked up with her previously. She's quite a well-known porn star. And she's like, comes over. She's like, yeah, come over. Go to her house. There's no one there.
Coming to fix your sink.
Bongs. I'm coming to fix the sink. We smoked some bongs. Shot a video of her giving me a blowjob while smoking a bong, which I really want to publish because it's fucking awesome. And then we shot in a scene, and then we smoked some more bongs, and then we shot another scene, and she's like, oh, bye. I just get my car, and I'm like, fuck, that was awesome.
Bless.
Yeah. So what, are you still doing that now? Still shooting pornos and shit?
I have been doing it on the side, just kind of like all around.
Yeah.
But
would you consider a porno just rooting and getting your iPhone and being like, what? Is that a porno? Or are you set up with the lights?
Well, I've got the lights and everything, but from what I've been told, normally I shoot everything with Reds or with high, like really high-end camera equipment, all the content, TV, blah, 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 all the stuff that I put on my YouTube and do for brands and stuff like that. But apparently the amateur stuff resonates more.
Yeah, apparently that's huge at the moment.
So
was that like people being able to relate to it more or something?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. I guess amateur, it's probably, I don't know, it's like, depends on what your fetish is, I guess. Some people like feet.
Bro, can you explain the feet thing?
I fucking hate feet, so I
Oh,
don't know.
fuck's sake. Would you,
My
Jamie, do you into feet? No, we asked you last week. No feet. Someone fucking reach
He
out
looks
about
like,
the foot
he
thing.
looks like a finger guy.
Yeah, for sure. Or a knee man.
Just get roasted in the corner.
Yeah, but yeah, it's wild, eh? We went through that with Jace, man. We had a look at Googled up the feet thing, trying to figure it out. Fucks me, man. It's pretty wild.
People
though.
are pretty.
What's some of the weirdest fetishes that you've seen that has spun you the fuck out?
One of my other friends who will remain anonymous is a reality TV show guy, and if I told you who he is, you might know him. I don't really watch television, even though I make fucking content and blah blah blah. We were driving to where the fuck was it? What's the fucking shithole town in the middle of fucking next to Brisbane? Where
Okay.
starts with T. Starts with T.
Ipswich.
No, further out.
No idea.
Toowoomba.
Toowoomba. Sorry to all the
hey.
people in Toowoomba, but yeah, Toowoomba's a fucking shithole.
Yeah, I agree.
And so if you want to kill me, you'll come find me. Now, so we were on our way out to Toowoomba for the Freestyle Kings, the FMX show.
Yep.
And I've got a bunch of influencers, and they gave us a bus and shit. And we picked up a bunch of people, and we, smoking weed and getting on it and driving out there. And my homie, he was friends with my ex-girlfriend, and he just was randomly, he goes, "Oh, look at this." And there's a video of this quite famous girl I know getting pissed on, and she's like all about it. She's like fucking
Just loving the golden
it's like,
shower.
the dog in the fucking, in the hose. She was like full doing laps in it, and I was like,
Wow.
like, what the fuck? Like, I was like, almost crashed the bus. I'm like, don't fucking show me that shit. It's like,
Yeah.
I fucking love it, cunt.
She wouldn't like what mine's like today. I haven't drank any water. I could piss through styrofoam at the moment. It's like fluoride.
So tell me, are you a Voldemort kind of guy? Are you like a blow data?
Nah, mate. Cam and I have witnessed a blow dart live, and
Fair few
look, not our
live.
thing. No, not a like. Hey, if you like the dart, then go for it. But we're not
I think
dart
female
guys.
to male, it probably could be accepted, but we've only seen it male to male. Fucking boys
that's
on
fucking-
tour. Yeah, boys
That's
on
2
tour.
days old in the dorm room. You roll in and go, wow. Okay.
The boys are in the
This-
trenches. Yeah.
Yeah, getting a bit wild, and you go, right, this is where we're at. A couple of loose units, and off you go, moving on. But
Yeah, that's why I
people are into some weird
I like
shit.
partying with chicks, not dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that does make sense. That does make sense. What are some of the best like parties? Like, because obviously you've been in that scene for a while, right? How old are you now? 30?
35.
35,
Just
and you're still hooking
in the
in. So,
prime.
like, you've had a lot of years.
I'm in the prime
experience
now.
in
It's
America,
like I'm
and that.
getting my shit together. I'm like, fuck, I'd always date like the fucking the 7s and 8s and the like the kind of the 9s. It's like, whatever, you don't give a fuck, you just keep fucking strippers and porn stars. But then when you get like a really hot one, I'm a pussy and I fall in love too easy. And so like now I'm becoming a bit more like not so much of a bitch, a bit more like Andrew Tate, a little bit more like fuck off. And it works way better.
Yeah.
Like, when you got a fucking chick that looks like she could melt ice, and she got the pussy that tastes like French vanilla ice cream. It's fucking pretty addictive, man. And I'm not addicted. I don't, I do coke occasionally. I like smoking weed, but I don't smoke all the time. I smoke sporadically, unless it's more of a social thing. We just went to the Australian Cannabis Cup about last week, or it was 2 weeks ago or something like that.
Cannabis Cup?
Yeah, that was pretty rad.
Is that who can pull the most cones in a minute or
Nah,
something?
they did do that back in the day. There was a skate.
Before the hot dog eating contest.
There was a skate magazine called Big Brother, which was the pre Jackass. So they're the guy. That's what Jackass came from.
Okay.
There's a movie called The Day the World Ended. It's about Steve Rocco, and he started World Industries, and then he also started Big Brother magazine, and that's who Jeff Tremaine worked for. That's how Johnny Knoxville came up. They printed an article about how to commit suicide. And then they did all sorts of controversial shit. He ended up, Rocco ended up selling it to Larry Flint, like Hustler magazine, kind of thing. And so, they did a bong smoking Olympics back in the day in like 96 or some shit. I've never seen it again. But the Cannabis Cup comes from like High Times, and they've been doing it for years and years and years in California. Right. And people bring their best strains, and then people vote on them. How it worked in Australia, it's very underground. They pick an anonymous place, and then they tell you like the day before. You know, and it's really only the heads in the community, or it's kind of out in the
Like never back
northern
down,
New,
sort of shit.
northern New South Wales kind of hippie vibe. And people bring they have a flower category, so there's about 20 different strains of weed, and then they have a dab and wax category, so that's like hash and wax and dabs, and so you pick your favorite 3 weed strains and your favorite 2 hashes based off the smell and the touch. They put them on plates all around in a big circle, and then you kind of like look at them and you're like, I like that one, and then they'll give you a little bit to smoke, and you smoke it, and then you vote on what your favorite one is.
Bro, what's the dab thing? What's going on there? Are you a fan of the dab?
Yeah, I like dabs. I don't like partake in it like very often. I don't have a dab rig or anything like that.
Yeah.
But this company that I kind of work with, that Craze, that I do the things with, our mate Richie, he owns a bong and dab rig company called 710 at 420. So they sponsor a lot of stuff that we do. So if you need a dab rig, check them out. Obviously when I go to events like that, I'll have a dab. You know, moon rocks, they're pretty fucking gnarly. I love edibles. I do that a lot. My mum now makes edibles for me, which is pretty rad.
Shout out to mum.
Yeah, she loves them.
Speaking on your parents, so they owned, what was Fusion?
They used to own Fusion, yeah.
So
but when I was growing up, they had probably the 3 most famous Mexican restaurants in Australia.
Yeah, right.
They won Best Mexican in Australia about 4 times on the Northern Beaches in Sydney, and then they won in Coogee and one in Avalon, and yada, yada, yada. And then, when we moved up here, because my dad was partying too much, we moved up here, and then indirectly, one of my dad's mates had a speaker box company and it was going bankrupt, and my dad's mate was going to go to jail. So my dad paid out the loan that needed, so his mate wouldn't go to jail, because my dad's a pretty stand-up dude.
Yep.
Paid it out, and then he started another speaker box company called Beaver Box. So they made, you remember subwoofer boxes?
Yep.
They had the 6x9s, and they had so it was all like sexually
12-inch,
kind of
16.
Yeah, super. Yeah, so they had a speaker box manufacturing company, and then my dad went to the CES show, and he's like in Vegas, and he's like trying to find a company that he could import to make his money back, and he came across Fusion, and they didn't have an Australian dealership like distribution agent, and then they ended up pulling the trigger on that one, and so they had that for about 6 years, from when I was about I think I was probably about 16 until I was about 22.
That was sort of the range, because like everyone was right into that with cars and stuff like that. Now obviously everything's upgraded. People aren't really doing that anymore.
No, that whole Fast and the Furious era was pretty cool.
That's right.
We went to I never was into cars. I didn't really give a fuck, which I probably should have, but I never cared. I didn't get my license until I was like 22. I just drove for like 5 years with no license. I never got pulled over. And just had some shitbox car, you know?
Yeah.
But I never gave a fuck. It just wasn't really what I was into. I cared about skiing and pussy and getting drunk. I didn't even do cocaine back then. I didn't touch cocaine until I think I did it once when I was like 14 or 15. And we went surfing, and that was once.
Good day on the water.
Then, it was pretty. I just remember being like charged and like, but then they did Fusion for about 6 or 7 years, and it was really fun. We sponsored the Krusty tour. That's how I'm friends with Robbie Madison and Robbie Adelberg and Seth Enslow back in the day, and the Metal Militia guys were on that first tour. Fuck, they were assholes back then, and they had the fucking coffin cheaters from Perth as their fucking security. That was pretty cool. And then obviously Auto Salon. Summer Nats. So it was pretty cool to go. I'd be overseas 6-7 months a year, 8 months a year, and then I'd come back, and then we'd go on to car shows, and we'd go on to Krusty Tour, and so it was pretty cool balance, I guess.
Would have been pretty crazy to grow up with that sort of lifestyle. I suppose. Would you reckon that's why you like living sort of? How do you put it? On the edge?
100%.
That's why you're...
definitely. But my old man, my dad was like a national champion water skier.
So things have always been at an extreme level.
He was barefooting when he was 8.
Yeah.
You know, my grandfather was a famous aeronautical engineer. There's a shrine dedicated to him in 1927. They flew the first non-stop transatlantic mail flight from Rotterdam to Aruba. And the engine blew up, and he went out and fixed the engine while they were flying. And he got knighted by Queen Beatrix in Holland, who owns BP. She's one of the heads of the Illuminati group. And so I think that cavalier I never met my grandfather, but he had my dad when he was 53 on his third marriage. And they met in Irian Jaya, which is Java, at the end of World War II, just after World War II. And then they had my dad in 55 or whatever. So, and then my dad, they owned a water ski grounds. And then my grandfather, he kept getting pissed off that the bank of the river was getting all fucked with by the boats going past. So he invented a boat called the Stolk, which at the time was probably the most revolutionary boat hull that had ever been designed. And it had no wake. And so he ended up, he's a famous inventor, was on Beyond 2000 in the 1983, I think. And then all the public ferries in Hong Kong and Singapore Harbour were Stolk.
Yep.
And then blah, blah, blah. They ended up selling that. But you either have an inventing mind or you have a marketing mind. Very rare do you have both. Like Elon Musk, he's not out there selling his Teslas. His brother created, Kimbo is actually the genius of the family. They say he created all the processes and all the structure and everything for the companies that they did together.
Yep.
So I think that cavalier attitude of thinking outside the box is probably pretty ingrained in me from the get-go.
Do you do any business courses or anything, or just sort of learn from the family?
From the family, and then just read a lot of books. And obviously, I've had a lot of big sponsors. I've been sponsored by Dragon. I've worked with Red Bull. I've
connections.
I've had big energy drink companies. I've ridden for big ski companies. So I've always been around the marketing of it. I think being around the Fusion and the Krusty Demons thing probably helped a lot as well.
Yeah.
But my dad, he's done everything. He had an excavator business. He had 3 Mexican restaurants. He had a ski shop before I was born.
Yeah.
He was importing Harleys for a long time. Then he was importing toy haulers.
It's pretty crazy, like coming from like us. Like we just sort of grew up, and I suppose you could say a standard, just run of the mill. Like mum and dad had a job, and I suppose that's why it's
family had
interesting.
businesses, real estate.
Interesting talking to you about
environment versus nurture. I think my attitude and cavalier take on the world was definitely very influenced from my upbringing.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously my mate as an example, my friend that I started that men's magazine with, that I went to the Playboy mansion, his father was a doctor and his grandfather was a doctor.
Yeah.
His brother became a vet. He became a doctor. So it's like, that's the same with lawyer families, banking families. It just is what it is, Not always all the time, but definitely, and I think it's definitely a big influence for sure.
For example, for me to start a company overseas, like where would you start with something like that?
Well, that kind of happened because of
partners.
Partners. I helped set that up. We invested
but for you yourself to go do that, you need that partner, don't you?
Yeah, well, I could do it, but pretty much, because I'm not a US resident, so I couldn't do it. So,
what do they class that as? Like we're proprietary limited here. Is it LLC?
It's
or
an
something?
LLC. Yeah. So we have, I think, 2 or 3 different LLCs in the States.
Yep.
And the gentleman that I opened that with is my friend Corey Zyler. We were on the Freeride World Tour together. We competed, and I actually met him during my friend Ian McIntosh introduced us. He was doing an interview for Eurosport at the bottom of the European Championships for slopestyle in Verbier, where I used to live. And I'm sitting behind him, and he had this big beard, and he was only like 17, and they called him old man because he looked really old, but it's only because he had like a big Fu Manchu beard when he was that age. And he's sitting and he's getting interviewed on Eurosport, and I'm in behind in the background smoking a joint and blowing big clouds. And he kept this cool. And anyways, he says to me, he's like, "Oh, I need some weed, blah, blah, blah." And Ian McIntosh came over and he's like, "Oh," he vouched for him. He's like, "Oh, can you get him some weed?" I'm like, yeah, I got weed. No worries, no worries. And I was living at the bottom of the valley in Le Chab, and the gondola closes to go up to Verbier at like 6 o'clock. And I went home after that day, and I was like fucking really stoned, and I was like, got really high, and I was like, "Oh, fuck, I couldn't be fucked." I went to sleep. And then fast forward about 5 or 6 days, everyone's gone I went to the next party the next night, and I didn't see Corey, and he's disappeared. And my dad came to town. He flew into Geneva and caught the train. So I met him at the train station. We had breakfast. And then I went back to my house, and he was staying in Verbier up in the nice area with one of his friends. And I was in the ghetto down in the cowpoke down the bottom of the valley. And so I'm walking across the train tracks to go back to my house, and I hear this, "Will!" And I'm fucking turning around and there's Corey with his ski bags and two of other friends. And I was living in this big 1-bedroom place and I was paying like 200 Swiss francs a week, and it was right above this big where they keep all the cows in the wintertime. Smelled like piss. But it was cheap and it was fucking easy. And I just didn't give a fuck. And people come, so they come and they're like, oh, we've been in fucking Austria. We went to St. Anton. We didn't book anywhere to stay. There was nowhere for us to stay. So they end up sleeping in their board bags in like minus 15 on the fucking train platform. And my mate's a big pothead and he hasn't smoked any weed for like 3 days and blah, blah, blah. He's like, whoa. I'm like, where the fuck are you guys staying? They're like, we don't know. We're like, they're just, you know, and I'm like, oh, whatever. You guys can just come crash at my place. And so they ended up coming and, you know, there's like 7 of us in a tiny little room. I've got a bed, so I don't give a fuck. They're all sleeping on the floor, on pillows and whatever. And, you know, I don't give a fuck. Like, they're my friends. They can come. If I had especially in a very expensive place to stay, Verbier is one of the most exclusive ski resorts in the world. I did live a few seasons up in the mountain, most of the time with my parents, but to like live there even like 15, 18 years ago, you needed to pay $10,000 at the beginning of the winter just to rent a room. You know, now it's probably... Who knows how expensive? So it wasn't very accessible.
That was like Whistler for us. We just couldn't get over the price.
I lived in Whistler for 4.5, almost 5 winters.
Yep.
The first time I moved there, I went to Europe for the beginning of the winter. I went to Verbier with my parents for Christmas and shit, and they did their thing, and they're not living there for that winter. And so I end up flying to Whistler to Vancouver from Geneva, and I get there and I'm like, I stayed in my mate's house and on my mate's couch in staff housing on Blackcomb.
Yep,
it's fucking so ghetto. And then after about 2 days, I'm like, oh, I can't sleep. I'm itchy and I got like fucking hives and shit like that. And so, anyways, I ended up living at the fucking at what's it called? The Shoestring Lodge. I lived at Southside Lodge. I lived at 26 different places in 2 months because there was nowhere to live.
Yeah.
People used to sleep on the deck of the Peak office. Peak is the magazine.
Yep.
They used to sleep on the Peak deck and wait for the fucking magazine to come out, and then they'd ring up all the available leases and stuff like that. I remember going to one showing and there was 30 plus people waiting to like just to view the property.
Well, we laughed about they were taking photos of us so they can just remember us, and the next lot come in.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, we ended up fucking living in a dungeon. 5 of us.
I lived in a sauna for a month. I lived in my mate's sauna for a month. It was turned off, obviously. I just put a fucking futon down and a sleeping bag and slept in the sauna for a month. And then I finally found a place, and I was like, it was $1,000 a month for this tiny little room. It was a bit expensive for that time. So I just used my travel budget, borrowed $1,000 off my dad and just put the deposit down. I was only there for 3 weeks, and then I broke my back and I fucking had to go home, and she wouldn't give me the money back. So that was a bit of a pain in the ass. But yeah, Whistler's definitely, I like Whistler more in the springtime and like probably
that's like
May.
Say the summer's amazing.
Summer
was
amazing, man.
Yeah,
I just loved it. 5 nightclubs, 5,000 people your own age. That's why we just got stuck there.
We used to go to fucking Garfinkel's and Mojo's and
Tommy Tuesdays,
Tommy's,
Swedish Apparatus.
Go to fucking what the fuck is we're all Buffalo Bills and pick up MILFs.
Longhorns at the bottom of the run there.
Fuck yeah, my mate used to work at the Longhorn, and we used to go in there and we'd fucking steal food. And I did a whole season. I broke my back, and I couldn't use my ski pass. And there was this fat drug dealer dude that I knew that kind of looked like me, and he had glasses. So I put my hair down and put his glasses on and took another new season photo, and I gave it to him for a blowjob from a hooker in Vancouver after I got out of the hospital with the broken back.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'll pay for a blowjob for you if you give me a pass. I'm like, fuck yeah, I haven't had sex in I've been like lying in traction for like 3 or fucking days. Didn't know if I was going to be able to walk again. And I'm like, fuck yeah. So anyways, I go back in the summertime, and I go back the next season, and he got caught in the summer using my pass, because you get the pass to you can go walking on the pass, but you can't go skiing. So he was downloading with his skis, and they checked his pass, and then he got done. So the next season I come to go pay for my season ticket. It was like $2,000. I had the $2,000 and they're like, oh, you're going to have to pay this $500 fine for your friend, like because you got caught. And I didn't get caught, but obviously I didn't say anything. I'm like, fuck. So I didn't have the extra $500 at the time. So I'm like, no, fuck it. I went and bought a fucking pound. And I skied the whole season with no pass.
Yeah, right.
So the sniffle sneak on it was the sniffle sneak on Blackcomb, and we did the gondola at the bottom of the thing just opposite the Longhorn.
Yeah.
There was the sniffle, there was the little tissue dispenser.
Yeah.
So we called it the sniffle sneak. So we'd kind of distract, or when the ticket checker guy wasn't looking, you just fucking jab in and jump in, and then you just jump on the gondola and you because once you're back in the day, once you're above fucking staff, there's no fucking checking tickets.
No.
So for the whole winter, except on a powder day, I'd buy a fucking $120 ticket.
Just so you could
I could cook in and we'd go film and blah, blah, blah. But most of the time, and then I remember at the end of the winter, I was after I moved out of my spot, I was staying at Southside Lodge and I had a full film crew with me. And, I went and met the Aussie lifty, like the Aussie checker.
Yeah.
I was like, hey bro, I'm a skier, blah, blah, blah. I'm here filming. He's like, I'm like, if I hook you up, like, can we come up? And he's like, yeah, no worries. I just gave him a nug every morning. Just give him weed.
Fuck yeah, those dudes are on $11.25 an hour like I was, bruh. You just do whatever.
Oh, you a lifty, were you?
Yeah, I was for a while.
Nice.
I was at the tube park.
Yeah. I had another mate that worked at Boston Pizza. Fucking, I used to give him like half an eighth and he'd give me like $50-$60 worth of food.
Yeah, nice.
So weed was my trade, and I was selling weed. I was never a good weed dealer because I was always like, I'd buy a pound and then I'd smoke fucking half of it, and then I'd put my travel budget in to re-up. But I thought I was a little gangster. I was like, yeah, I was sitting on the block. I remember selling an eighth of weed to an American tourist for $75. So yeah, we used to sit on the block and pretend we were gangster and sell weed and blah, blah, blah. And it was I loved Whistler, man. It was my favorite fucking place in the world when I lived there.
I loved it.
And we were like, I was in the crew. I was one of the only Aussies that kind of got accepted into the whole kind of like pro thing, because I was sponsored and I was like one of those dudes, and I'd ski with them all. And then I lived in Pinecrest for a season, that next season, and I lived next door to two gentlemen. One of them, his name's Cale Steffens. He was one of the biggest pro snowboarders in the world at the time, and he was a fucking G. And he lived with Sean Kearns. And Sean, if you know the snowboard world, Sean Kearns is one of the most influential people. He used to make all the whiskey movies. They were like the kind of the precursor to Jackass. They smash bottles on their head and get into fights.
They do even stuff in Norway or something.
Yeah. No, that was the Dudesons. Different.
Actually, it looked like you'd fit in with the fucking Dudesons, actually.
Yeah, totally. So lived next to them, and lived there for many, many years. It was paradise, man.
Yeah.
What period was that?
2000 and I first went there when I was 13 or 14 for summer camp in 2002.
Yeah.
And then I lived there. The first winter I lived there we moved to Fernie when I was 15 for 2 seasons. My family, they were going to immigrate to Canada. They were going to open a Mexican restaurant there, and then we moved to this shitty little town. It was great powder. My parents bought like a fucking what would now be a multi-million-dollar house on the mountain. Had heated floors and was 8 bedrooms. It was amazing, but my parents aren't really materialistic, and so they could rent it out for $2,000 a night. So they ended up renting a fucking trailer in the worst trailer park in Fernie, and I lived in the trailer park for 2 seasons with my one season with my family, another season by myself.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Whistler that next year when I lived in the sauna. And then after that, I lived there for probably about 4.5 seasons, I think.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to move to the place where the best skiers were, because I wanted to get better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when it's like going to the North Shore in Hawaii, back then they had the WSI. That was the center point of skiing, you know? And snowboarding, that was the world center.
What's the best mountain you reckon you fucking skied at?
Sochi in Russia.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Russia.
Kranzia Poliana is the resort.
The women.
Oh, dude, it was fucking ridiculous. I took a photo on this. I've got this photo in front of a private jet with like 5 or 6 girls, and I put that as my Tinder profile.
Yeah.
And when I went to Russia, I was there for 3.5 weeks. I think I fucked 12 chicks. At least 9 of them were over 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
I say fuck for
fucking
you.
Hilarious. The last night we were in Russia.
Shavak.
The last night we were in Russia, I picked up this chick on Tinder, and she brought a mum, and we went out on a Tuesday night to this like strip club thing. And this chick was like a 10 out of 10, like fucking, and she stunk. She must have come from a ghetto area. What? She must have not had a lot of money. I don't know. But she brought a mum to this
the mum stunk
nightclub.
or she stunk?
She stunk.
Okay.
Like she hadn't had a shower. I don't know. It was really fucking weird.
Yeah.
And I was with my two brothers and my dad. My dad's like, what the fuck? Anyways, whatever. We're drinking at this nightclub on a Tuesday night. It's like it's like a Coyote Ugly bar.
Yeah.
And then they're all through Moscow, and it's probably not the best place to go, but it was a Tuesday night, and we've got no fucking idea where we're going. And anyway, so she's trying to talk to me, and probably like, do you want to come to America? That's what she expects me to say. And my middle brother, I won't mention his name, goes, oh, she fucking stinks, but she's so hot. I'm like, yeah, fuck that. I'm not doing that. I've had enough fucking sex this week. And my other brother, I don't know I think he rooted a couple of, I'm pretty sure he did root it, but I don't think my middle brother did. And anyway, so, my other brother's like, oh, can I have a, and he's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever. And my other brother took her back to the hotel and had a shower with her.
Where does mum go in a situation like that?
Mum wasn't on that trip.
Oh, right.
That was the boys' trip. I'd always wanted
No, like the mum there with the Russian.
I don't know what happened then.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was fucking blacked out by that time.
So, like, you've obviously done a lot of traveling, lived in a lot of places. Do you... And have you ever had a base that feels like home, or have you been? Is it home to you just wherever the fuck you are?
Verbier in Switzerland was somewhere that was really, really influential in my life. My dad moved. My dad was like obviously a water skier. In 1976, he did a season at Perisher, pulling T-bars on Mount Perisher.
Yep.
And he met a guy. Obviously, picked up skiing quite quickly, and he met a gentleman named John Faulkner, who was the Australian freestyle skiing champion. And they became good friends and started skiing together. And John was in all the old James Bond movies. He was in Her Majesty's Secret Service. He was in For Your Eyes Only. He was the stunt coordinator for GoldenEye when he jumps off the dam. It's a pretty famous guy, right? And so my dad moved there, and there was a crew of them called the Clombarn Kids, and they were the first expats from America that moved to the European Alps.
Yep.
And all of their photos came back and got published in Powder magazine. Mark Shapiro was the photographer, and then eventually after that, another guy named Ace Cavalli. And my dad was in that scene. My dad was a hot dogger, and so when I was 9, my grandmother died under scrupulous circumstances. She had a heart murmur, and she had to take these pills that slowed down her heart rate, and she was meant to cut the pill in half, and she took the whole pill. She ended up dying. This actually happened, and the cops came with the they do the autopsy, or and they take off the rings and everything like that in the morgue. Well, when they took her ring off, she sat up and she wasn't dead.
What?
And this is no bullshit. And so the cop had to have 3 months off because she was so like the PTSD from this happening, right? And so I remember my dad's a pretty heavy. My dad looks like a Viking overlord, right? And he doesn't cry. He's a not really nice guy.
Man's man.
But I remember, definitely man's man. And I remember coming out in my grandma's house, and my dad was wailing and screaming and just like hysterical because his mum had died. And or my grandma, whatever you want to call it. And then anyways, she came back to life, and then she ended up dying again. And my dad had a mental breakdown. And at the time, they had 3 Mexican restaurants. They were about to do a deal with CC's. Remember CC's back in the day? To launch like a Mexican line in all the supermarkets, kind of like what a precursor to what old El Paso was.
Yep.
Because my parents' restaurants were pretty famous. And,
So where were they based in?
They were on the northern beaches in Sydney, and then one in the eastern. That's where I grew up. In the northern beaches. So Kelly Slater's come in, Julian McMahon, Leighton Hewitt, all sorts of fucking people back in the day.
Out of all the people you've met, bro, is who have you been the most starstruck by? What about you?
Did
you shake his hand and did you fucking nail it?
Yeah,
when you sort of grab him a bit too early or a bit far, did you just stick it?
Yeah, I stuck it. And,
nice.
The only person I've ever been starstruck was when I met Seth Morrison. He was my favourite skier. He had purple hair, and I met him, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I've interviewed.
Everyone else just sort of just.
I interviewed Snoop once. He was a cool dude.
Did you?
Yeah, he rocked up like 3 hours late for the. He rocked up
Did
like
you
3
smoke
hours.
one with him?
No, I didn't get to smoke one with him. It was like a group interview, and we all got to ask like 4 questions each. It was for like the launch of one of his parties.
He was 3 hours late, was he?
What was your 4 questions for Snoop?
I asked him about his what was his favorite track on his new album, and he told me he's in the group and he's on this like kind of like on this big seat. It was at the top of the old Gold Coast casino, and it was run by Universal Music, and it was the Blue Carpet album. I can't remember the exact name. And he comes and he's 2.5, 3 hours late. And it was all catered and stuff. Yeah. And then he came in and he had like a little throne, and then they had all the press junket tables, and you're allowed to. And so I asked him what his favorite track on his album was, and he's like, my favorite track was the track I did with Willie Nelson. It was 420. We were smoking mad fucking reefer, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, fuck yeah. And he goes, fuck yeah. And the whole crowd like starts laughing. And he seemed like a cool dude. Obviously, I didn't get to talk to him one-on-one.
Yeah.
Fuck, man, I still remember Snoop, bro. Like, we went to, I think, one of the big day outs.
He's a G, man.
And then we, like, waited and everyone fucked off and we went right up the front of Snoop. And he just says shit that if anyone else said it, they'd be like, what the fuck? But I still remember him saying, when I say sticky, you say icky. Sticky. And everyone's like, icky. It's just funny as fuck.
I just love it how he's like, he was on that Angie Martinez on the Breakfast Club, and she's like, oh, so do you feel sorry for your condescending, misogynistic comments and lyrics in your albums over the years? And he's like, no, fuck these hoes. And he's just like, and then this guy's got, he released a Girls Gone Wild. Then he started a child football league, and he was on, and he went to almost went to prison for murder. He killed someone, and then he got off. That's when he was on death row, bro. Yeah. This is before Tupac got shot, and he got off on self defense. But because he's always been that guy, people don't question it. But what people don't like is people don't like being duped. So someone like Tiger Woods that parlays into the world this image of this, all-American, good, half Asian, half black poster child of work hard and discipline, and so when it comes out that he's meant to be a family man, and then he comes out and he's fucking more hoes than fucking Ron Jeremy is.
Well, it's faster than a tiger.
What
a cheetah.
That's awesome.
He's a legend. Snoop is just one of those blokes, though, that you might not like his views or whatever, but he's got everyone's respect.
Because
Snoop,
that's because he's legit, and because he always is who he is.
That's right.
And he always is. He's always reinventing himself.
And I respect people like that too, even if I don't agree with them. If they're just who they are and that's them, it's just like, hey, at least he's not fucking
being anyone.
Too like saying he's this here, but then changed his views just because this bloke doesn't agree with them. Like
it's like the saying, remember in Along Came Polly, where he's like, he tried to be the leopard, but he was still the hippo. So do you remember that scene? What I'm talking about? It's like a saying where the hippo tries to be paints himself, and he tries to be a tiger, and then he's like, he tries to be this, but he's always the hippo. It is, you are the way you are. Not you can evolve and change, and
of course. I just mean like as in. Say I say something to you, my beliefs and that, and then we do a podcast with someone else, and I say the complete opposite just to make the conversation. It's I
hate shit like that. Yeah, I remember once being in New Zealand, and I was with this group of dudes, and they were like older American guys, and one of them was like this fucking dork, and we're at the Remarkables Cafe, and there was this snowboarder chick, and she was from Utah, and she was a Mormon, and she was like fucking smoke show hot. And she comes over and she starts talking to me, and these guys are flirting with her, and I was like 16, and I'm like, fuck these old cunts, I'm gonna fucking cockblock these faggots. Sorry, just please beep that last word out, whatever. And anyways, so I'm like, and I'm talking to her, and she's like, oh, so do you smoke weed? And I'm like, fucking oath I do. And I pulled out a big sack, and she's like, oh, I don't do that kind of thing. I'm like, well, that's your loss then. And then the other guy's like, oh, yeah, I don't smoke weed. I'm like a good boy. Like he's trying to like kind of try and be like a little bitch. And I looked over. I'm like 16, and he's like 22, 23. And I'm like, dude, you just smoked a joint with me like 15 minutes ago. And she's like, oh, how dare you lie to me? And she got all mad, and he's like, I'm gonna fucking get you. I'm like, don't be a kook, dude. Like, I hate people like that. It's hypocrite shit.
Just fucking be yourself.
But then there are some people that they don't want to express their religious or their views on the subject.
You understand people withholding stuff and saying like, hey, I don't really want to comment or something. But I just mean it shits me when you see someone just fucking trouting off just because they know it'll get a good reaction.
But those people always are the ones that get cancelled. So it is what it is. If you're a real G, you just keep it 100 as the the rap culture calls it, you know?
That sounds so funny coming out of my mouth. The real G, keep it 100. Like,
Yeah.
So what about you guys? How long have you been doing this podcast for?
For a year today, mate.
Fuck yeah, well, cheers. I need another beer. You want to pop?
Yeah.
You got two there?
Got two there. You
But
two
yeah,
get it
it's
all.
a fucking.
No, you
No,
guys.
you're right.
It's a year today, bro.
Probably getting warm, though.
We actually that's
No,
right.
you guys got to cheers. That's fucking fantastic.
But yeah,
a year
so-
today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
today.
So that's fucking pretty iconic. Pretty iconic.
Yeah, like we did the one
cheers,
earlier.
cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Anyway,
Cheers
bro.
to that, man.
But
That's fucking rad.
literally
Bluetooth.
the first Bluetooth. First fucking episode come out 18th of August last year.
Man, fucking fantastic. And now you guys have blown up and you're more popular than Joe Rogan in Australia.
Well, on the Spotify charts, yeah, it's pretty cool.
How did you guys get your traction? What's the key to the
Bro,
success?
it was the social media like snippets. It was just like the visuals, and that allowed obviously people to see who we are, and then you obviously get a percentage of those people that go and look at the show.
And finding the niche market of who actually listens to podcasts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like we've talked about before, farmers, mining, truck drivers.
Yeah.
and then relating to them.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is the big thing, you know? You
Yeah,
got to
totally.
find a fucking audience that listens to podcasts, and then you got to relate to them. And if you got those two things sorted, you're fucking sweet, aren't you?
Yeah, totally.
Are you recording often? You've got your podcast?
Yeah, I've got a podcast with Willy's World. Check it out on Spotify and all good podcast outlets. No, I just do them sporadically. I think
Yep.
soon I'm going to start doing it a bit more. The last few months, the last one I did probably about 3 weeks ago with Troy Candy.
Yeah,
that's a dude-
nice. That's a dream guest.
That's a dude you guys should interview. I could put you in touch with him. He's a
Yeah.
really good dude.
Yep.
And
He's got some good
been-
business models.
He's a fucking G, man.
Yeah.
And he's a cool motherfucker, and he's humble, and he's just into cars, and he just made him. Everyone thinks he's like a drug dealer and all this
Yeah,
bullshit.
yeah, he's-
That motherfucker hustles. He works hard. He talks in a podcast I did with him. He talks about having 3 jobs and then going home and fixing cars in the back of his parents' house, and
Yeah.
he's just a cool dude. But again, he got on because he's organically.
That's
you guys
right.
got on organically.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You kept it real, and that's why people identify with you guys, is because you're not trying to be
Did
someone
he get that
you're not.
party drink
yeah.
going?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
And then he recently got raided. They thought he was
Yeah,
doing
that's
drugs.
right. Kicking the door down his Gold Coast house.
And there's the video of it.
They fuck up, don't they?
They can't get they got like a 20 grand door there. It's like full of solid wood. And there's the chick cop there, and the 2 guys are going at it, and she looks like she's got a heart on and a little butch face. She's like, oh my god, it's amazing! Like, and she's like, she's getting her rocks off watching her counterparts go hard on the door.
Nail the door open.
Then he had the old missus going the OnlyFans now too.
Yeah, I don't know about that, and that I think I've never met his wife, and I neither would I comment on that.
No,
because
yeah.
I don't know the.
It's
I
just
don't
a
know
weird
them.
yeah.
But yeah, that is what it is. But that's the 21st century.
That's
isn't
right.
it?
And it seems to be normalised, but yeah.
No, well, OnlyFans has taken it's taken the middleman out of porn, and also
Yeah.
what it's done is it's those girls that you see on Instagram. You can see the porn star. You've seen the porn star 50 times. You want to see that fucking hot Instagram chick finger bang herself.
That's right. And blokes like, that hot chick from school that they were obsessed with, that chick's got an OnlyFans now. I always wanted to see what she looked like.
Yeah, fucking oath.
And there's a platform for that.
I've only subscribed to, I think, one OnlyFans.
Yep.
I haven't launched mine yet, and I probably won't because I got a couple of major projects in the works that would really be greatly affected by that.
So let's say, you're saying you got a lot of things going on in America, right? And big things happen, and it's real important to you.
Yeah.
Like you're doing this thing at the moment where you do stunts or whatever to raise awareness with the cannabis industry and that.
Yeah.
Obviously, the last one was pretty wild. Do you now step back from that and
Fuck
go?
no.
So, but I mean,
No.
do you just go?
No, that's pussy shit. No. I'm
But
gonna
this
get
is
it.
this is where I'm getting at. So, would you sacrifice not being able to go to America?
Fucking oath.
Yeah.
No, fuck. Live by the sword, die by the sword.
Ah, sweet. Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
a
I was
pussy.
just-
I know.
Nice.
Fuck. I know what I did before I did it. Mm-hmm. I knew I was going to get locked up, and it is what it is. But it's a pretty stupid charge for something. We didn't. The Chasers did it. The Chasers did it before us when they did the advertising for. And if you watch the video at the beginning, there's Scott Morrison. The video of that stunt that we put out a few months ago. There's the video of Scott Morrison talking about the Everest Derby, which they advertised on the side of the Opera House and caused all that massive uproar about them using an iconic building for advertising and yada, yada, yada. Well, Chasers War on everything. They went there the next day or a few days later and they did a projection on the side of the Opera House that said advertise here.
Yeah, right.
As a joke. Well, they didn't get done for it.
Yeah.
So, but nah, man, fuck
No,
no.
it was just a general thing for me.
I understand that, but I'm just this is the sentiment in my brain. Is that
sweet.
like I'm right or die for this because it's like it's really
you're
important
passionate
to me.
about it, yeah.
I'm very passionate about it, and I love smoking weed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, obviously it is gonna be financially beneficial to me. It's a process.
Look, my view on it is
love smoking pot. Man.
My view is on it, bro, is that I think weed should be treated like alcohol.
100%.
Because I feel like, and I'm not speaking on any other drug, I'm just saying weed. So for me, weed, you got weed and alcohol, this is just my view. What benefit can someone health-wise get out of alcohol?
Don't know. Maybe
There's fuck all health-wise you can get out of it.
But the cannabis plant's the God plant.
This is what I'm saying. There's proven things like people with Parkinson's and stuff like that, right? It's been proven that it can help people. You know what I mean? So if alcohol's allowed and it doesn't have any health benefits and cannabis does, it's like, what's the fucking difference? Like, why is alcohol legal but weed isn't? Like, as in,
because you can grow weed at home.
Yeah, well, then,
They can't tax it. Yeah.
But then you can brew.
No, you can't.
You can brew alcohol at home too. But then you need a brewer's license in order to be able to, like a food and safety health check.
Mate,
to go
I'm with you with I think it should be legalized and a system put in place to.
Personally, I think they should just legalize all drugs.
I
they've done
reckon
that. They've done that in Portugal. The crime rate went down by about 46% in less than a year. They just legalized all personal use of all drugs.
Oregon too,
all
isn't it?
drugs.
Yeah, I don't think they should legalize heroin, and they definitely shouldn't legalize ice. But I think that the reason that ice is so prevalent in Australia, and before it used to be very, very prevalent in Hawaii, and if you look at the history of surfing between Sonny Garcia and Andy Irons, there was like a whole generation that was lost. Of surfers that was lost to the ice pipe, right?
Dude, I think we all got mates who we've seen fucking 100%.
But I think Hawaii is very similar to Australia, that it's ostracized because it's an island in the middle of fucking nowhere. So when a gram of coke is $300 to $400, and it's shit, people can go buy that ice. It's way easier to manufacture here. It doesn't have to get imported from Bolivia or from Colombia or Albania or wherever high altitude place that the cocoa plant grows. It can be made in the bathtub in the back of some fucking some guy's shed or whatever. So it's a lot more accessible. Now, if you legalized all drugs, there might still be a fraction of the population that are still doing smoking ice, but most of them are probably going to do legal cocaine because it's cheap and they know it's good and it is what it is, you know?
Yeah.
MDMA was originally developed as an aphrodisiac for married couples.
Yeah.
To stimulate a love drug. So, but now there's a huge push towards this. Oregon's looking at, I think Oregon has just legalized personal use.
I think it's one of those things, bro, that I think the push for cannabis and the legalization of that, I reckon, like, obviously start with that. Yeah. And then once that's all through, then you go, right, is there anything else we can improve and do? 100%. Because, like, to me, I can't treat any other drug the same as cannabis.
100%.
I just feel like that's
I totally agree. And that's
mushrooms, you could.
Yeah, well, actually, there you
now
go.
psilocybin, which is mushrooms, is being legalized in a lot of states.
There's a lot of drugs and shit.
There's a lot of, well, that's still, it depends. But I think that, who the fuck don't we know? And you don't have to comment on record if you do or you don't. But, like, most of my parents' friends do coke. Most high level doctors I know do more coke than
that's what amazing. I've met some lawyers, doctors that get around.
Bruh, man, if you knew one of my mates, I can't go into details, but I got a few homies that are on, they're in very high places, and a lot of people are participants.
Yeah, man, and for sure.
Fuck, who gives a... in my personal opinion, exactly. And what you do in your own domicile, in your own house, if it's not negatively affecting anyone, then who gives a fuck? Obviously, if you do drugs and then you go drive and then you hurt someone, then you should be tried at the highest levels of the law. Yeah. Just like you do with alcohol.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a conversation, and like there is points both sides of that. You know what I mean?
Well,
especially, I'm a big one where I think weed should be legal, but the other one, and to a point with the others, but I definitely think there's a massive conversation. It's a bit more technical, I reckon.
But it's been proven. It's done. They've done it. Every country that does it. They have lower youth suicide rate. They have lower drug use per capita. They have lower crime because it takes, and then you've got a quality product. It's not like now in California, there's a huge epidemic of fentanyl being laced with cocaine and with heroin and blah, blah, blah. That's how Mac Miller died.
Yeah.
And so from what I've been told from a few people that I know in the scene in LA and Vegas now, you know, if you get an 8-ball or something off someone, you want to check it before you do it.
Yeah. No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that thing. I wouldn't say, yeah, go for it. It'd be like one of those things that it'd be like a, you know.
But the thing is, Australia's nanny state. You need a permit to wipe your ass and fart, or fart and then wipe your ass.
Yeah.
So I don't see that any, like, you know, it's great to, people talk about it and blah, 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 but getting it through, like the Greens have this big, you know, if it did get legalized in Australia, I don't think that it would be in the fashion of like a dispensary like California or Colorado or Canada.
We're talking about just on weed here now?
Just cannabis, because this is more so something that I can speak on. Because the other things I'm not an expert on. And I'm not necessarily the expert on legalizing weed. This is just my opinion. I think that what the Greens are proposing, from my memory of reading the bill, is basically kind of cannabis clubs, kind of similar to what they have in Spain. A slight commercialization that can be done, and then basically decriminalized. And they've decriminalized it in Canberra. Do you think that the cannabis use went up? Do you think smoking in public places went up? Fuck, you can go to Vancouver Airport now and they've got a section to smoke weed at.
That's insane, eh?
It's fucking amazing.
The 420 event over there is fucking huge.
But see, the thing with it is this like, when it gets legalised over there, it's treated like alcohol sort of thing. Everyone just gets used to it.
They're about to do it in Canada. So,
but I mean, like, as in, we're so used to, like, getting raised and it was drilled into you, right? As a kid, it might not have been you, but, like, a lot of people, it was drilled into me. Like,
it was drilled into me, but then, you know, all my parents' friends are fucking doing rack. So they're telling me one thing, and then I'm not going to necessarily say they're doing another, but you know, they're having parties, and they're all, there's a who's of who.
No, for sure.
You know what I mean?
All I'm getting at is, like, it takes a pretty big movement to change a whole generation's view, and that's like what you're working with now with this stuff. It's trying
100%, and it's awareness, but the scientific data is there. It worked, and then they try to say that Australians, you know, like, do everything in excess, and it'll be a huge fucking economic crisis.
Well, we don't fuck around.
At the beginning, you know, like, legalize it, personal use only. Treat it as a health issue instead of a criminal issue. Immediately, you will free up the jails. Immediately, you'll have more money in tax for, especially from cannabis, for roads, for infrastructure, for...
Drop the fuel prices, just use the cannabis shit.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be that astronomical. But, you know, in a perfect world, that's great, you know? But, like, they tried to do it in New Zealand. They had the referendum last year. The referendum was off the back of, they had two agendas on the referendum. One was euthanasia, assisted suicide. One was legalizing cannabis. Now, it went within like 2 or 3%. Jacinta Ardern, obviously, she's a very passive-aggressive leader. She didn't really say whether she was for or against it. I think that they kind of put the euthanasia on the back end of it to kind of dismay people, because it was a very kind of controversial, you know, topic, obviously, that I can't comment on because it's not. I'm not a medical expert or psychologist. So, you know, they almost did it. I think if it had been in a non-COVID year where people weren't scared of their left bumhole. But you know, Australia's fucked, man. Look at the lockdown laws. We just went through 2.5 years of lockdown. I live in New South Wales. For almost a year, I wasn't allowed over the border because I wasn't vaccinated. I had a car on one side of the New South Wales border and another car on the Queensland side of the border, and so did my mum. And fuck the goddamn cops. If you want to come and get me, fuck you. They fucking have a fucking barrier set up there, like at the fucking Berlin Wall or the Mexican American border.
Yeah.
And you walk through a park and then you're it's fucking ludicrous. It's ludicrous. And my friends were calling me from all over the world going, you guys live in a Nazi regime. Like, that's a domestic border.
Remember Rogan talking about it, saying they're flying helicopters telling them to get back in their house.
Yeah.
No. But seriously, that's the prequel to whatever they want to do. And people are so fucking dumb. They tell you to wear a mask because it's going to... Man, those masks work for 15 fucking minutes. Shut the fuck up. It's all a joke. I didn't pay attention to any of the rules. And, Sweden didn't either. They had a very open policy of how they dealt with it. And the first cycle, they had a high level of death rate. And then the second cycle, they had one of the lowest death rates in Europe. The majority of 65% of people that died of COVID had, cognitive, or had other ailments I don't know what the word is.
Unhealthy.
And most of them were clinically obese. 65% of them were clinically obese. So, now, didn't they say that, COVID a few weeks ago, they had more cases in a day in the country than they did, at the peak of the pandemic?
Honestly, I couldn't give a fuck about it. Yeah. I'm so overhearing about it. It's not about the COVID, it's about the principle of the freedom of movement. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
And it's because this stuff's so important to our culture and our civilization in this country, but people are so over it that they don't want to talk about it. But these kind of things, they shouldn't have the right to close a domestic border. They should fucking, in my opinion, they should cut their fucking heads off and put them on stakes on top of the fucking Sydney fucking Harbour Bridge. Yeah. And at the top should be fucking Dan Andrews' head. 150,000%. And that guy's on the payroll from man, obviously it's over. We're over talking about it, etc. But it's the social ramifications of being obedient to what the government tells you to do.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
That's the thing that's the long-term
I think we've all
effects.
definitely learned from it, and we just got to go, right, if something like this comes up again, fuck, we got to do something different. Hopefully we're just not going to fold again.
We might be going into World War III soon.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
I don't know if you guys follow, the Chinese ambassador the other day saying we're going to do whatever we want with Taiwan, and now we've got this cognitive degenerative president in America who can't even ride a bike. So the world's going through a little bit of chaos, and so I don't know. I don't have the answers, but I think that we definitely need some kind of change because. This new Albo is, he's a better prime minister than Scott Morrison was.
I wouldn't even know what he looks like.
I think it's all part of the same bullshit.
Man, that's sort of I definitely know where you're coming from. With that thing, and it's you can't just fold on that, but it's one of those things, man. I'm fucking so over shit, and it's
But I understand why you're over it.
And you get into this fucking thing, and you're just constantly thinking about it, and it takes over your life and all your thoughts and that, and I'm like, fuck this. So I'm just doing me, cruising, fucking. When it comes to it, though, and you can't, I can understand why some people would be full on if it's affecting their life personally.
100%. So when you have to live on a border,
that's right. So
you're
that's
watching
what I mean.
your 60-year-old mother have to go and worry about getting arrested for walking over a border.
So that's what I mean, bro. I understand where you're coming from, but I suppose
it greatly affected my life for about 2 years. I was stuck here. Then I couldn't, it was a fucking pain in the ass. And it is what it is. It's over now. Yeah. But, it just shows you that, my opinion is, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me.
Yeah,
Rage against the machine. I'm not an anarchist, but, I would say I'm a slight libertarian, where whatever you do in your own domicile, as long as you don't hurt anyone, who gives a fuck?
Yeah, live your own life.
So are you a bloke who, as in, I'm all about, sticking up for yourself and that, but are you a bloke if someone tells you something, even if you agree with it, you'll just do the opposite just because they told you to do it?
No, not at all.
Yeah, right.
No.
Because that's what I mean. I'm fully about having your own thing, but it shits me when I see someone being nah, you said that, so I'll do this.
No, not at all. No. Yeah. I'm a lateral thinker, and I'll listen to a whole bunch of the news, and then
make your own thing up.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's independent minded. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. We can have a debate and have a discussion about it. Not you personally, but anyone in general.
Yep.
But there's basic common common fucking sense, you know. Like, you can't have a domestic border in a constitution. It's a formulated country. Like, there's no, it's ridiculous. And those premiers had all that power for all that, and the long term psychological effects that'll have on the populace is, you know, that's immeasurable. And, you know, people don't give a fuck, but they should. They have to, because it's fucking our country, and these fuckwits are fucking ruining it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Australia could be the fucking paradise. We have the ability. We got all the natural resources. We need people like that Bradford guy that built the Sydney Harbour Bridge and engineered the Snowy Mountain scheme, like that progressive kind of thinking.
Oh, yeah.
You know, people that are actually, you know, because we have the ability and the manpower, and we have all the space in the world. You know, we should be thinking 10, 20 years down the line to build this utopian society in the South Pacific.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's ever going to happen. It is what it is, you know. And
so like 5 years time, like just going quickly back to your cannabis thing to sort of wrap things up a little bit and where that's going. Say if everything works well for you, brother.
Yeah.
In 5 years' time, where do you see yourself, or where do you see Australia with the cannabis thing?
Me personally, or what the Australian?
Oh, well, pretty much like, where do you think you'll be able to get it to? Well, not you yourself, but as an industry, where do you think that has the potential?
I think potentially in the next 5 years, it could be legalized.
Yep.
There is the potential for it to happen.
Yep.
Germany's about to legalize.
Yep.
The EU is talking about legalizing, but then also this month, for the first time since 2014, the profits of the cannabis dispensaries in Colorado have gone down for the first time.
Yeah.
So the boom there is slowly fizzling.
Yeah.
And it's becoming more stabilized.
Yeah.
Which happens in every marketplace, which happens with the .com boom, which happened with Bitcoin, which happened with NFTs.
Yeah.
So there's a huge surge, everyone's the rush, and then it drops off, but it's not necessarily dropping off that much. It's just normalizing, because it's becoming part of the culture after about, I think they legalized in 2014, so that's about 8 years.
Yeah.
So now it's becoming normalized. So there's not really that hype train of like having to go to the dispensary and, you know, all that gold rush. It's just kind of consistent. You know what I mean? Here in Australia, I think if the EU legalizes, if Canada legalizes all drugs, and then America federally ratifies legalized cannabis or decriminalizes it, that are the first steps. Because at the moment, I can't go get the cash that I made out of my dispensary because we can't legally bank in the federal system. So we've lost 8 different bank accounts for trying to put our cash through the banks.
Yeah, right.
So when my business partner went to go pay the cannabis control agency of California in Sacktown, in Sacramento, which is the capital of California. Yeah. He had to go there with the license money. He had to go there with $56,000 in cash to pay for our license 2.5 years ago. And it's in the ghetto in the middle of fucking Sacktown's a pretty gnarly little city.
It's near New York, isn't it?
No, Sacramento is like in the middle of California.
Oh, California, yeah.
So that whole, so you have to pay with cash, and then we have the whole dispensary is built around a giant safe that keeps all the cash in there. So but if they federally ratify that, that'll mean that, like, if I have a cannabis company in California and I want to sell in Oregon, or I want to sell in Washington, or I want to sell in New York State now that's legal, I have to have a separate license and a separate grow and cultivation, and then manufacturing and then distribution license in every different state, all right?
Yeah.
And that's how Cookies has gotten so big. Berner, who's just on the cover of Forbes, he's purchased different cannabis dispensaries and then labeled them Cookies. Now, good on him. Kudos to him.
Yeah.
But once they federally ratify it, if they do, then you'll be able to ship across state lines.
Yeah, right.
Which will open the whole market to another massive boom.
Yep.
So the problem at the moment isn't necessarily the supply chain. It's not necessarily the people that want to do it. It's the politics behind it.
Yeah.
And if they fix that, which it's on the cards, because it's probably part of the agenda of the Democrats to kind of take away attention from such a shit job they're doing. And again, just my opinion. Then they do things like this. They'll give them a bone and then go do this over here. If they do that, involved with cannabis, if they federally ratify recreational legalization or even just decriminalize, which means that the banks can process the money, that'll be the major step in America.
Yeah.
If Canada legalizes all drugs for personal use, which is on the agenda, to basically take away the attention from how Justin Trudeau's doing all the stuff with the tar sands and all the other shit, that the lockdown and all this bullshit, they want to throw him a bone to take the attention away. That'll change everything. And then if the EU legalizes, then it's fucking game over.
Yeah.
Then it's potentially possible for Australia.
Yeah.
But we have a very conservative political system here.
Yeah.
And from my very, very kind of short knowledge on the subject, and I am heavily involved in it, but I'm not a lawmaker, and I'm just a crusader or whatever, activist, whatever you want to fucking call it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Australia will ever. It's potentially. I more see kind of what has happened in Canberra. Like, you'll be able to grow it yourself.
Yeah.
You'll be able to cultivate it personally.
Won't be treated like other drugs, sort of thing.
I don't think it'll be treated like alcohol, which is what it should be treated as. Yeah, just like California. Because I want to be able to make money. You know how good it is to walk into a dispensary and buy a fucking lemonade that's going to get me stoned? It's amazing.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
But, but at the end of the day, for me, the reason that I'm so passionate about it and about the COVID and about all that stuff, it's about my fucking freedom. If I want to do something in my own house and not affect anyone.
Yeah, no, I get that, bro.
That's all. And, and cannabis is just a no fucking brainer. So it is potentially possible. Where do I see myself in 5 years? I ideally would love to have the biggest cannabis, holding company and brand in the Southern Hemisphere. That's probably my goal. I want to open California-themed dispensaries in Germany and in the EU. Paired in with like a bunch of Californian like action sports people, kind of like how they did with Bolter and what they did with Sinatra, another beer company. And I'd love to call it Californication or something like cool like that. And then, obviously we're launching this Byron-based CBD company that'll, it's more the health and wellness luxury brand. And then I'm also looking into, we're working on an advanced, kind of like sustainable, technology company, working with hemp and other kind of products to build building materials, and then, like working in carbon sequestration is the word for it. Hemp holds more carbon than any other plant, and there's like billions of dollars in that market. So, basically all evolved around cannabis stuff.
Well, it's pretty cool. It'll be interesting to see, like, and if someone wants to follow what you've been doing and what's happening, where would they go?
You can check out Willys World 69. They just deleted my other account for the third time.
Yeah, you've got. I remember you were like 80K one.
Yeah, and then now that's my other account. Yeah, they deleted that one. And then originally my Ballin' on a Budget account, I had 1.1 million on Facebook, and it was the third most trending Facebook fan page in the world for a long time. At one point, we were getting about 2 to 3 million page views a day on my website, and then they deleted my my Facebook account. That was about 4 years ago. So I've had lots of interactions with where they've deleted my accounts. But as someone told me once, it's rented real estate, so if you don't play by the rules,
that's right, it is.
You're gonna get kicked off.
The wild world is social media.
I just want to keep on doing it. But for me personally, I like the idea of making money. I like the idea of hot chicks and the Playboy lifestyle, and making TV shows and getting more famous and doing all the bullshit. That's fun. That's self-subserving. But the biggest thing that really motivates me is giving back and helping the world, even though it probably doesn't come off that way from what you perceive from my Instagram feed and blah blah blah. That's probably 10% of my life. But it's just it's the principle of being free to do what I want to do. And
I get you.
I love your Instagram. It's sort of like an Aussie Dan Bilzerian sort of vibe. Well, not that you've got
the poor man Dan Bilzerian
from Wish.
Hence the balling on a budget. But that's all organic. We just have fun with it. I don't try to take myself too seriously, but I'm really passionate about this. The Who Are They Hurting movement is something that's very dear to Alec and Craze and my heart. we're working with a lot with Jenny Hallam. She's one of the biggest advocates in Australia. Someone you probably guys could interview. It's very interesting. She was facing 18 years in jail for cultivating medical cannabis products for terminally ill people. She was supplying about 300 people that were terminally ill with free medical cannabis to kind of help their suffering, or she saved a few different people from dying, actually. Yeah. And she was facing 18 years in jail. And she ended up getting off. But, these people shouldn't have to go through that.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. It's and mate, today it was good getting your perspective from things because it's something that I know personally. I wouldn't know a lot about, so it was good getting your view on things, And again,
we're open to discussions, but for me, obviously, the legalizing all drugs, that's a bit of a pipe dream, and there are alternative opinions on why that should and shouldn't happen. And I understand that. But cannabis is a no-brainer.
I agree.
I think we all agree. You don't smoke weed and go home and beat your wife up.
No, mate. That's something that you will not get any backlash out of me. And it's not the all of them thing. I'm open to hear points of view there too. I'm just saying I'm not like the weed thing where I'm like,
100%. I understand that, and they should be classified as two different
100%. That's the main thing, I reckon.
And it's just, but like I said, but at the end of the day, for me, obviously weed's great, all drugs are great, but freedom is fucking the paramount. One of the paramount of the building blocks of democracy and a Western society. And since the war on drugs started in the mid-20s, 30s, they've incarcerated hundreds and hundreds of, probably millions of people. And the prison industrial complex has made billions of dollars off all those people. They costs $110,000 to have an inmate in America. And a lot of those prisons are privately owned, and there's judges that are getting done for sending people to jail for 5 years for fucking for stealing stuff and so it's all about the mighty dollar. You know what I mean?
That's it, brother. It's all about the money.
Yeah, the money makes the world go around. And what about from your perspective? You guys, you live in a kind of small country town. Growing up, most of your mates smoked bongs, didn't they?
Yeah. Everyone got around that sort of thing.
Was always there.
I was never a big fan of it. It's just never, not my drug of choice. I'll just leave it at that. But I don't know why. Alcohol's probably mine. I'm just a happy drunk.
Yeah.
But no, man, I've it's been a part of fucking growing up from where we're from, man. And you're seeing it all the time. And like I said, I think, like we said, it's I
respect it, and then the CBD, the inflammation and stuff is doing for athletes and stuff like that. It's huge.
Well, this new company that I'm launching, which is Byron-based CBD, our kind of primary product is a CBD and lidocaine cream. And it's fucking amazing. I'll send you guys some samples when they're ready in about 3 weeks.
Sounds good.
It'll change your fucking life. It'll give you 10 years of your life back.
Yeah.
So fun-wise, the next couple of weeks, you're heading off skiing, are you?
I'm going to go skiing hopefully this weekend.
Oh, nice.
And come back here, then starting to shoot content for our launch in the States, in Byron and around the kind of Northern Rivers, to kind of document the health and wellness lifestyle. Our slogan is the guiding light towards health and wellness, obviously related to the Byron Bay Lighthouse. So we're going to be producing a lot of high-end products that are for the health and wellness market. And then I'm doing the co-hosting, kind of working with the Maxim magazine 11th birthday next month. And then that'll be pretty awesome. And then I might be doing we did the after party with a partner of mine. We did the after party for the Melbourne F1. We did the Melbourne GP after party in April. And so we might be doing another one in Austin. So in about two months, I think. But again, whether I'm allowed to leave the country or not, that's two totally different things. But hopefully, ideally launch this brand, do a couple more parties, make some more money, start the process for this next TV show that I'm making and sell the first one, and then get off bail, win that case, and then get on a plane and get the fuck out of here, because I've been stuck here for almost 2.5 years and it's starting to fucking eat away.
I can't wait for
soul.
a recap. You come back for a recap, mate. This is exciting times.
It is exciting times. And what about you guys? What's your plans? Obviously, I'm really thanks for having me, by the way. I'm really pretty stoked for you guys.
It's unreal.
You guys seem like really cool dudes, and I think it's really amazing that you guys are just two Aussie blokes that have just started talking shit, and now you're starting to get a following. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, cheers, bro. I think we're just going to keep doing what we're doing and just Yeah, really,
turn this into
really,
a job, hopefully pretty quick, and fucking let's.
That's the plan, bro.
What do you guys do? What's your normal day jobs at the moment?
So we're both fitters, but I work in the mines as a bit of a operator maintainer. So I drive machines and fix the plant and just operate and whatever in a wash plant, coal wash plant. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying the old supervisor gig, just running blokes, shut down sort of fitter stuff, and then just doing the excavation stuff on the side.
How's your response from like the community of like friends and stuff? You getting
unreal.
Right. They've been supportive as the whole time. So no, it's been good, bro. It's
no tall poppy syndrome yet.
Nah,
it's great.
Nah, it's good, bro. Everything's good.
You seem like very mellow, like down to earth guys. So yeah, congratulations on all your success.
Cheers, brother. And it'll be good to keep in touch with how you're going with all your stuff.
No, I'd love to come back at some point and
bro, when you cruise overseas, and I'm sure we'll see what you're doing when you come back in. Let us know, and we'll have to do a bit of an update.
Fucking oath.
In the meantime,
we'll have to fly up to the big glad hole, but the big glads.
Up to CQ.
Oh, come up there. I've been
out like a sore thumb up there.
Last time I came up there was for John O'Porno's funeral, many years ago. Right. He was a living legend, that dude. He was fucking one of the nicest people I've ever met, actually. Yeah. So he really repped it for Gladdy up there in the up north. But yeah, thanks again for having me on, and like and subscribe and check out the Alpha Blokes podcast.
That's it, bro.
Thanks, guys. Have a good week.
See you later, right?